Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guests are the Haddad family. In recent weeks, Pastor Haddad was here to talk about being a pastor in the Northeast Kingdom. Today, he's bringing his family along just to tell us the rest of the story. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Scott.
Hey, it's nice to have you on.
Yeah.
Again.
It's nice to have my family here too. They're my better 3/4.
I'm going to let you introduce everybody.
So, like I said, I'm Pastor Mike of Derby Community Church. I started here in December, so I'm going on 5 months now. This is Teddy, and he was born on December 1st. His full name's Theodore.
And that's a natural mohawk.
Yeah, natural mohawk.
Yeah, that's cute. I was thinking about having a mohawk myself.
You can go for it.
Reverse.
Yeah, reverse mohawk.
Definitely.
Yeah, Teddy kind of just rolls around on the floor and works out his hairdo. And then this is my wife, Norma. You want to say anything?
I'm from Vermont, and I'm glad to be back here. We've been away from Vermont for
7 or 8 years.
Yeah, something like that. And it's great to be back. And then this is Isabel. You say hi? You wave to the camera?
No.
Isabel's enjoying a book. Isabel takes the stage most Sundays at church. So if you watch the sermon on TV or if you come to church, you'll probably see Isabel join me during the announcements or the prayer time. And I'm guessing when Teddy's more mobile, he'll probably come up to the stage as well.
Right. You know, I think it's nice to have ministers now who have youngsters because I think a lot of times the age of your parishioners varies according to the age of the minister's children. You know, for right or wrong, I just kind of think that's the way. So I would suspect you'll even start seeing more kids pop up.
Yeah, we could. I mean, for instance, if we weren't here this morning, we'd be at the library for story time, hanging out with other young families. Norma always takes the kids to Toddler Play World over at the municipal building in Newport. So we're always mingling with other young folks, and naturally we're kind of drawn to have younger friends, so we have younger folks over for dinner and to hang out. So some of them might end up at the church, like you said. It's just kind of the way it works out.
Yeah, but you and I, though, we hang with a really cool group of people occasionally. Nursing homes.
Nursing homes.
Yeah, nursing homes. There's some of the coolest people in nursing homes, and you go there to fulfill their spiritual needs, and I go there to listen to their stories, which they love too.
Yeah, I love being around people of all ages, and the nursing home's fun. The people there have so many stories, and they're so sweet. It takes them all about 10 seconds to fall in love with you, and they really show kind of how much they appreciate having young folks show up and spend time with them. So I always say it's more rewarding for me than it is for them, getting to know some of them and their stories in their life. But yeah.
Now tell me, you weren't here the last time you came, but you watched the show, right?
I did. Yeah.
And he has you right up on the throne next to Jesus, practically for making him who he is. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it's funny actually. A lot of times in his sermons, he'll be like, you know, I'm not perfect. Like, you can ask my wife, or he'll give specific examples, and he's like, "Is that true?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's true."
So you do the same thing I do, because I do when I do my public speaking, whether I'm holding an event or something. My wife is often, not fodder for my jokes, but actually, she's the one who, like, I introduce her as the person who, before I get on stage, she'll make sure my shoes are tied, my zipper's up, my shirts are buttoned right, because I can't do that kind of stuff myself. So
yeah, I think if Norma wasn't so occupied with the kids, she'd be doing that for me. But so I have to do that on my own right now, and I'm making it. But once the kids are older, she'll be able to tell me how my hair is.
Well, is Janice, who works here, she's very good at that. So if you need somebody to make sure you're all spiffed up before you go out there, just bring her along and put her on the payroll or something.
That's right, yeah. That'd be good.
When he leaves the house in the morning, he leaves before we do for church, and I'm always like, commenting on his outfit, telling him if his tie's okay and all that.
I'm always like, does this match? Does this look okay? I have no idea.
So where did the name Haddad come from? Because, you know, up in the Northeast Kingdom, we have a lot of Smiths, Browns, Wheelers, and French names, but Haddad, that's kind of unique to this area.
Yeah, so my dad's family is where the Haddad name comes from. I think if you were to pronounce it correct, it'd be like Haddad. So it's actually a Middle Eastern name, and it's one of the more popular Lebanese or Syrian names. And it's kind of it's a good name, but it's a difficult name to have in today's day and age, having a Syrian last name, if you can imagine.
Because you were telling me, everybody, most Americans know going into Canada is actually pretty easy most of the time. But coming back is sometimes kind of tricky. But you had it the other way because of your name, and they just couldn't buy that you were a minister.
Yeah, so my name, along with my profession, what I do, kind of trips people up. So at the border, we were going over there. My stepbrother was visiting, and he hadn't been to Canada before, so we wanted to do a day in Canada, go to Tim Hortons, go to a bakery and all that. So we take him to the border, and here I am assuming getting into Canada is not going to be a problem at all. I'm more concerned about what it's going to be like getting back. So I get to the border and hand the passports and all the documents, and the first question the Border Patrol agent asks is, what do you do for work? And I said I'm a pastor. And I imagine she's looking at my last name, she's looking at my age. She probably hasn't seen me before because I'm new to the area. And she asked me like 3 more times, so what do you do for work? And I said I'm a pastor. I try to explain it in different ways. I work full-time at a church. So finally, after a couple minutes, I had to get out of the car and go inside and do a background check. And they were asking me all sorts of questions, like how long have you been here? And of course, I've only been here since December. They asked me, what do you preach about? So I was explaining Jesus, the Bible, all that. And finally I said, well, I'm the pastor of the church across from the Cow Palace. And once I could identify like the actual church I was at, they kind of started to buy it more, and they let me through. So that took like half hour, 45 minutes. But then coming back in, it took like 10 seconds. Right. Like, all they cared about is if I was bringing fruit back or something like that.
I was going to say, if you really want to get them shook up on the American side, I swear they'd overlook something major if you had an orange sitting on your window seat, because they get oranges particularly gets them all freaked out. Because
and I don't blame them for stopping me at all. I mean, when I look in the mirror on Sunday morning and I dress up and have my suit on, I'm kind of like thrown back. Like, is this really my job? Is this really who I am? Is this really what I'm doing with my life? Because I am only 25. And and I hang out with other pastors in the area, and they could, I hope they're not watching, but they could all be my dad, a lot of them. And they do treat me kind of like a son, and they take care of me. So it just kind of, it trips me up too. So I don't blame the Border Patrol at all for being like, we're going to have to do a background check.
So you're 25?
25, yeah.
Okay. See, in my mind, I'm 25, but when I look in the mirror, I'm wondering who that middle-aged bald guy is, and so I have a hard time reconciling, like you do. When you look in the mirror, you have a hard time saying, okay, yes, that's Pastor Haddad.
I'm like, what?
And when I look in the mirror, I think, okay, what's this all about?
Yeah.
All right, Teddy, what do you have to say about? What do you have to say about your father?
He's a fan.
He's just waiting to crawl up there with you.
Yeah, Teddy's a very nice little guy. He smiles at just about everybody.
Yeah, he smiles at everybody. We are kind of worried about when he's mobile, because she's so mobile that, like, with 2 of them, it's gonna be. We're going to have to get a full-time nanny just to follow us around.
I've watched you. I've been to your church, and I've watched. I think you handle it very well. How when she went up, it isn't like shoo, and.
Well, she came up on Sunday, right before the announcement, so my first announcement was, does anybody want a kid to take home? And yeah, we found someone to come and take care of her. The nice thing is at our church, people are very helpful. So, I can hold her for so long, but then she's grabbing the microphone and she's grabbing my notes. So somebody usually comes up and takes her, and she's been really great. Like, she'll go to different people and sit with them. And I actually kind of enjoy having her visit me at the pulpit because I don't get to see her much on Sunday because I'm out the door as soon as I wake up, and then I'm talking with people till the afternoon, and then I get home and it's her nap time. So those couple minutes where she visits me at the stage is it's actually kind of nice. So I take advantage of it.
Isabel, do you have anything to say?
You want to come up here?
You come sit with Daddy?
Do you have anything to say about what do you think about your father here? Is he a pretty cool guy? He says you are. Yeah. I'm fluent in baby talk too.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what Teddy's saying.
Teddy's teething, so he's always drooling and chewing on things.
Isabel, all she knows about me is that I love to tickle her. I love to eat food. She's always feeding me food. Like, if she has food, she's like, well, Daddy needs some, so she's putting it in my mouth. And she knows that I go to church all the time. So if I put on a button-up and she sees that, she'll say, Dad, church. Dad, church. Even if I'm going to, Dunkin' Donuts or something, she assumes when I walk out the door, I'm going to be at church. And then when I come home, I came home from church. She's like, how was church, Dad? That's all she knows about me. So
now, Mike was telling me the reason he chose to be a minister is because he only wanted to work one day a week.
Yeah.
I say that jokingly because I have friends who are ministers, and it's amazing. Some people actually think you work one day a week, and you only work 2 hours, and if you're lucky, somebody else, you might have a group come in and do your work for you. Yeah. But in reality, ministry is really a family affair.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of what Mike does during the week, obviously sermon preparation, but he meets with people. We consider it work when he's, out meeting with people and interacting with people in the community, because that is part of his job description, is to be out there, ministering to those who are out in the community. And so a lot of his hours are, out the door in that way. And then he spends a lot of hours in his office. He's got a home office, which is nice, so we can come out and see the kids for a few minutes, and we enjoy that.
And you man the phones, or
yeah, I answer the phone a lot, and sometimes he's busy, and I just take a message for him, or I hand the phone off to him, and it's good because I hear the prayer requests too. I hear the needs that the congregation has, or the community has too.
But do you, if he's busy and not at home, I don't. If you're like a lot of ministers' wives or ministers' husbands, sometimes a lot of times you end up being a sounding board too.
Yeah. My ministry right now is kind of looking different the way that maybe it will when the kids are older, of course. But I consider myself to be a partner in his ministry. I minister to him in a big way. Yeah, and then
definitely.
And then those in the congregation I see as part of my ministry as well.
How good is she? Because to be honest, in my writing world, I have a hard time asking my wife things, because she is in this sense is, if she says something is good, I know that it's okay, and because she doesn't want to come right out and be like, has there ever been? Will she tell you when you're really off the mark on something, or?
Yeah, so Norma, she can't hide how she feels. I can hide all day how I feel, but she cannot hide if she's into something, if she enjoyed something, if she didn't like it. So even if she never said a word, I would know just from her face, if a sermon was okay or if a sermon was good. If she doesn't say anything, usually that's pretty good news.
Yeah.
Sometimes no news is good news. But sometimes she'll be like, yeah, it was kind of weird how you worded that. Or she'll point out obvious things that I missed. One time I tried to say case in point in a sermon, and I said point in case. And I was like, I didn't catch that because I was just going through, and she was like, "Yeah, you said point in case." It was really weird. I was like, I didn't mean to say that.
Or sometimes he'll look to like one side of the congregation too much, and I'm in the front row, so I see it, and I'm like, I try to like tell him to look over there. Like,
there's one couple. Like at church, you have some people that are kind of sitting back like this, and you kind of see the head go. And then you have other people that are sitting up and listening or looking down at their Bible. But there's one couple in church, the Eatons. I'll do a shout out to Nancy and Peter. And Nancy and Peter are on the edge of their seat going like this the whole time. So my inclination is to look right at those people because they kind of give me energy. I'm like, oh, it's nice. Someone's listening to me. But I'll notice during my sermon, I'll see Norma. She'll be like, stop looking over, and I'll be like, oh yeah, there's a whole other side of people. So
look across the aisle.
And you know Peter's really shy and reserved. But I'm going to tell you, you couldn't live long enough to hear every one of Peter's jokes.
Oh yeah.
Because he can just.
So every church event, like a potluck dinner or whatever, he'll kind of stand up and just announce something like it's something really important, and you know it's coming. It's just a joke, and it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're both jokesters.
Yeah, our church has a lot of really great people, and coming up here, it's a big adjustment because we were living in Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts, Foxborough, home of the Patriots. It's a whole different world down there near Boston. Coming up here, we knew it was going to be a big adjustment for us, for me especially. Norma's from Vermont. But the people at church have really helped us to learn about the area, to know where to go shopping, and just about everything. If we need to go do something and we need someone to watch the kids, we have people at church that can do that. And, people like Nancy and Peter and other folks at the church have just been super helpful to us. It's pretty incredible. Like, they'll come over with a plate of cookies just randomly.
And I think you two have done really good about reaching out too, because you're like I know you've been everywhere. I ran into you at a postcard show, and then you go to the baby groups and everything. So I think you've reached out because I think, and the other thing I've seen you do is you've reached out to other ministers. I hate to say it, in every realm of life, a lot of times there's competition. And I even think that goes on within the ministry world occasionally, and I see that isn't so much the case anymore. Like we were talking, Pastor Wall has been on here talking about heroin addiction, and their church is really good about facing that issue head on. And so instead of starting up your own thing, you support him in his.
Exactly. Yeah, so the way I kind of view ministry is our church is just one church, but then there's the larger church which incorporates every church in the area. So if Pastor Larry Wall's church is offering some ministry, I don't want to look at that ministry and say, oh, how can I adopt that for my own church, unless it was really needed to have more of those. Rather, I want to say, how can I support Pastor Larry's ministry? Every Tuesday night I go to the Church of God, and I'm part of like a Bible study with Pastor Larry and other people from his church. And then every Wednesday morning, Pastor Larry comes to my church for our men's breakfast. I go to a pastor's group with other pastors in the area, Dave Listener, like you mentioned. Yeah. I'm doing a funeral tomorrow, and I haven't done a funeral at a funeral home before, so I called up my friend Pastor Mike DeSena from the Morgan Church and asked him, what should I expect? What should I anticipate? So it's like we have a great relationship, and something I've noticed is every single pastor in the area wants to see Norma and I do well. Because, like you said, they were at the stage that we're at, in their 20s, starting ministry, and they needed people that wanted them to do well and that wanted to help them. So now it's like they've gone through that, and now they want to, kind of pass the torch on to us, help us out kind of the same ways that they were helped out.
And you've gone out even you've gone well outside of your denomination, gone to the Catholic Church, met with the priest. I think you even said you met my buddy, Father Davino.
Yeah, so I go over to the nursing homes, and what's that nursing home in Derby Line called?
Michaud Manor.
Michaud Manor. And Father Davenant is there, and even he wants to see me do well. He comes out and he says hi to me, and he's got a great big smile. He's a funny guy too.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's such a great character. He's been on my show, and he got the calling to be a priest when he was 13, and he was joking.
Wow.
Cause he went away to become a priest at a young age, and his brothers used to rib him. Sure, you got a calling.
Yeah.
Says you just didn't want to milk cows anymore, and
That's
so he spent his according to his brothers, who humorously tell him that he's been a priest for all these years because he didn't want to milk cows.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's, some people give me a hard time. Kind of like, not as far as like getting out of doing another line of work, but they're kind of like, really? You're a pastor? Like my brothers, they knew me since I was like, a baby.
Yeah.
So when they call me Pastor Mike, kind of tongue in cheek, kind of like, hey, Pastor Mike. Or like, I'll be getting frustrated with them about something. They'll be like, okay, Pastor Mike. I'm like, oh no.
Well, it was probably kind of feeling like I served in the Vermont House. So when somebody would say Representative Wheeler, it's like, really?
It's like
that's me.
I know.
Yeah.
I remember early on when we first met with the congregation, and Chet Carpenter was there. Chet Carpenter is an awesome guy, and he asked, "What should we call you?" And I hadn't really thought about it. Like, I didn't want to be called Reverend or Father, just because in our tradition it's usually Pastor. And I just said, you know what, you can call me Mike or Pastor Mike. And the congregation said, no, pick one. And it's kind of important what they call you. But I kind of see it every time they call me pastor. It's like, it's good because it's a reminder of what my job is. It's a reminder of who I am to them. And it's also a reminder that God has put me in this position. If you just call me Mike.
Well, that's it. It's like when I worked at the hospital for quite a few years, amongst the employees, a lot of the doctors wanted to be called just by their first names.
Yeah.
But I told my doctor, I said, if you make me call you by your first name, I said, I can't go to you. And I meant that. I didn't want to know my doctor as Bob.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know him as doctor.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point with
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it till then. How important it is to the people I'm serving that I am their pastor.
Right.
Some people do call me Mike, and I'm totally cool with that. And then other people just call me Pastor, which that always throws me off when I get a phone call and they're like, hello, Pastor. And I'm like, oh, you might have the wrong number. And I'm like, oh, no, I am the pastor.
Well, what's funny is I still haven't gotten used to the idea of Mr. I am halfway through my life plus some, and when I hear somebody say Mr. Wheeler,
You're like, where's my dad?
yeah, because he's Mr. Wheeler. I'm just this young guy.
Yeah.
So, is this what you bought into? Do you have any regrets on marrying him and having him take you on this journey?
No, actually, it's funny because when we were, I think, first starting to date, we kind of talked about
Trajectory.
yeah, like the future, where we were both headed, and he asked me if I would mind being married to a pastor because that's what he was hoping to become, and I was like, actually, I would love that. That's kind of something I've considered before because I have a really great relationship with my pastor from growing up and his wife, and I loved being with them and seeing their relationship and their ministry, and I think that inspired me, and I thought that I could live a life like that. I never really thought that we'd be back in Vermont doing it, but it's great, and I'm enjoying it, and it feels like coming home, definitely.
I know ministers' kids, and that can be kind of tricky sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about because it is, I think, difficult sometimes to be children of ministers because there's a certain unwritten rule almost what people and maybe it isn't even a rule, maybe it's just the parents, but
the perception.
right.
Yeah, we've thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, I told the congregation kind of point blank, like, I love you all, but I love my kids more than I love you. I'm not going to lie about that. So they're going to get my priority. My wife, I love her more than I love you. And they knew that. But it's still good to say sometimes, like, if I have an extra hour where I can spend it with my family, or an extra hour that I could go to some event that I was invited to, I would love to go to the event. But to me, it's more important that I spend that extra hour with my kids and with Norma. And the other thing, too, is, well, I've had the privilege of being friends with a good amount of people who were pastors' sons or pastors' daughters. And kind of a trend that I saw in their life as they shared with me is that other people tried to raise them. And while it's a beautiful thing to be kids in a church and have this wealth of wisdom from older generations, our job is to raise our kids. Everybody else, it's not really their job. They have their own kids. It's like we all need to focus. And I was worried about that because I didn't know what that would be like. But so far, the people at our church have not tried to do that at all.
I think you're both doing such a superb job, because I think it is tough to come into this, come into any area, but particularly I think into rural Vermont. I know you're from rural Vermont, so you probably occasionally, even though you're from Franklin County, it's more, it's Orleans County and Franklin County are more alike than they're different.
Yeah.
So I'm sure every once in a while, when he's wondering, like, what is this all about, you're able to kind of fill him in on some of our ways. Because sometimes
the culture,
right, and sometimes our ways seem so normal to us, but to an outsider like you, you're probably thinking, like, for example, I'm going to see, do you know what a toque is?
Is that a hat?
Getting caught. It's a winter. Explain a toque.
Like a beanie. Same thing as like a beanie, I guess.
Oh, I think your father wears one to church sometimes.
Oh, probably. But, a lot of people wear toques. But we grew up like French, because without even knowing it, we mix. Even if you don't speak French, you do have terms here.
Yeah, all of my grandparents are French Canadian.
My favorite is creamies.
Yeah.
So creamy to me is an adjective, like creamy Alfredo.
Right.
So when we've known each other for like 8 years now. So when I was first up here visiting, Norma's mom, I think, wanted to take us to get creamies. And so I said, creamy what? Like, creamy milkshake, creamy Alfredo, I don't know what you're talking about. And then so I've gotten so used to that, right? Creamy's a creamy. We got creamies yesterday outside the middle school. But when my family comes up here, I've been so ingrained in the culture now, I'll say, you guys want to go get creamies? And now they're saying the same thing to me. I'm like, whoa. They're saying, creamy what? That's soft serve. They're like...
Right. Like my daughter married a guy from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And, like, they even have little discussions. Okay, which term are we going to use with their little boy? Because he's from, and it's just like, well, okay, who is he going to root for? Is it going to be the Green Bay Packers, or is it going to be the Patriots? And
man,
they're little humorous things.
Up here, it's hockey. It's like Bruins, Maple Leafs, or Canadians.
See, I don't do any of that, but I don't know if I told you this, as a lot of people didn't know it until I wrote about it. The founder of the Boston Bruins, the man who built the NHL, who brought the NHL to this country, Charles Adams, was born and raised in Newport Center.
Oh,
I read that.
And it was in the 1800s. And so, all right, we only have a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
And what are your final words? What are your final words about the ministry, or to the listeners?
I guess.
Come to church.
Come to church. We would love to continue to meet people in the community. We've really enjoyed it so far. I love that there's so many things. Every winter, every day this winter, there's been things I could take the kids to, whether it's Toddler Play World, the libraries. I've taken them to 3 libraries in the area already. And I love that this has a great community. It's a small town feel, and it would be great to continue to meet people, and we'd love to have people coming to our church and meeting us that way, building relationships.
Another thing, we're getting pretty strategic about, what kind of ministries we're going to offer.
Right.
And right now as a church, we're identifying ministries that the community might need.
Mm-hmm.
So a theme that's come up is like a mom's play group where the kids are actually kind of more or less babysat and watched and taken care of by some other women, while the moms can just have a couple hours to hang out. So
That is a very good idea.
kind of ministries like that. We'll see kind of how it plays out, but look for Derby Community Church this fall and see kind of what ministries we're launching and kind of what we have going on.
And what's your how can people contact you?
Yeah, so you can go to our church's website, which is www.derbycommunitychurch.com, or you can call the church. It's 766-5500. I check the voicemail every day, or if I'm there, I'll pick up. You can also come to the church on a Sunday, and I always say, it's really hard to explain what our church is like, but if you just come and experience it, you'll get a real good taste.
Mm-hmm.
So if people want to come and check it out, I would love that. Because there is a new thing going on there. It's a new season.
And to be realistic, they needed you because they needed young blood, and I think you have been doing a spectacular job. But here's an important question. Have you heard the mating calls of the elk yet?
I haven't heard the mating calls, but from our backyard at our house, we can see the elk, and they were chasing each other around yesterday.
Well, I think because the mating call of the elk,
It's like a whistle.
It's a whistle.
We'll listen for it.
Yeah.
And it's because you do have a great vantage point for the for the elk there. And
We can see them from our bedroom window. It's kind of cool when we
maybe
wake up.
Maybe if you live there, it doesn't sound so romantically eerie. Maybe it just becomes a nuisance to hear the whistle, but it is a whistle that just penetrates.
Yeah, we're definitely listening for it. Isabel loves the elk.
Yeah.
She'll run towards the fence, and we're like,
She's like, Elkie. We're like, we can't go right now.
Yeah, she loves them.
Yeah, you do. Okay, again, I think you're doing so much right, because I think sometimes it's just like a business that doesn't reach out. If you don't reach out to people, you don't sell things. You can't wait to have people come to you. You've
Yeah.
got to reach out. Granted, you're not going and knocking on doors and irritating people or something, but you're just having a community presence.
Yeah, I'm not going to do anything that I wouldn't myself enjoy, like knocking on people's doors or, forcing them to try something. But, what we're trying to identify is how can we be an excellent church for the community? Because, we believe we have one of the greatest messages of all time, one of the greatest messages of hope. And how can I do an excellent job of meeting people where they're at and sharing this message of hope? And even just, even if people don't believe what I believe, I still want to help them out. Like, there's no criteria. Like, if you need help, I'm not going to require you to believe what I believe. I'm going to help you. And so that's kind of the church that we want to be and pass around.
I will say this in close. I've really enjoyed getting to know you. We've been out for Thai food and everything. You're a flawed person. And I mean that very positively.
Yeah.
You don't admit to being this person without flaws, because I'm a flawed person.
Mm-hmm.
It only takes somebody 30 seconds of knowing me to know this guy's flawed.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I mean that as a positive thing. You don't deny you're not a perfect person, and besides that, you're a real person. You love to get down to music.
Yeah.
You don't. You're a minister, but you're also a person.
Yeah, I figure people are going to identify more with my imperfections than they are my perfections. So I'm not going to get up there and say, I'm so good and I'm so great, because people are going to be like, well, I can't relate to that. So.
Okay, is he perfect?
No.
No.
Not at all.
And is she perfect?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I will. Does she want to come up here to say?
You want to wave goodbye to the camera?
She's made a pretty good mess of the
Oh,
studio.
she's not the first. We welcome everybody. So
She's had a lot of fun here, actually.
it was really nice having you on, and And
Say hi to the camera.
I hope the
Yay.
listeners will welcome the Haddad family to our area, and I know many of you have already done so.
Yes.
So,
You want to say see ya? Say bye?
No.
No. You want to say hockey? You want to blow a kiss to the camera?
No.
Okay. You want to say bye, Mr. Scott?
No.
She's
how about you?
stubborn.
What do you have to say, Teddy?
He's like, I'm about to fall asleep.
Okay.
Let me bore you.
Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll
Yeah,
have
thank
to
you, Scott,
we'll have
yeah.
to have you on again, maybe to come this fall when you have your ministries all worked out, what you're
Yeah.
planning to do. We'll have you back on again.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
All
Thanks
right.
for having us on the show.
Thank you. And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.